Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to another weekly analysis. So as always, guys, on the screen are the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because there is a bonus pair in store. I'll quickly go through my trades for the week first and then progress into the analysis shortly afterwards. So if there is a particular pair you do want to skip ahead to, feel free to use the timestamps below. But I had can't remember now. I had three new positions coming into the week. Did I hold Euro Yen over the weekend? No, I didn't. So I had 4 new positions this week. 2 on Euro Yen, 1 on New Zealand CAD, and 1 Aussie CHF. I believe, yes, entered that on Monday. So yeah, I hopped into Euro Yen on the daily chart. That trade didn't go too well. I was taken out for a loss. Price did have a really strong rally to the upside, but I did re-enter on Friday. Yes, Friday. Get my days confused here. Did re-enter on Friday. I do have my stop loss above the highs. I'm still very bearish in Euro Yen. I'm not going to shift my bias until price does take out this high. I know we have seen a lot of yen weakness recently, and potentially that could continue. And if it does continue, I'll stand corrected. Price most likely will take out this high, and then I'll look to reanalyze Euro Yen from there. But my analysis and the way I look to tackle my swing trades is once I do have a bias for a swing, I will have an area which price needs to take out for me to potentially invalidate that swing and no longer have that bias. In this case for Euro Yen, it would be this high here. So as long as everything looks good in terms of the price action, which in case of Euro Yen, we are still very corrective, still respecting highs, I'm still staying bearish and still looking for setups. Until price does take up that high is when I will stop looking for shorts and reanalyze from there. But yeah, price had a really strong rally to the upside, knocked out my first position. So I've hopped into a second position off the back of NFP at the high there, stops above the high. So if price does take my stop loss, it probably will take the high there as well. I'll stop out and walk away. But if we do respect this area, there is a pretty steep move to the downside to be had. Looking at potential 1 to 7 back to the lows there. The risk is worth the reward in this case. I'm really interested to see how this position goes. I'm liking the opportunity. If we do see that swing to the downside and the market maintains these lower highs, I'm looking for a really big move. I'm still looking for this really large head and shoulder pattern. And of course, that will be the neckline for Euro Yen. So I still do have that longer term bearish bias. We'll see how that goes. I also hopped into a New Zealand CAD position. This one's been on my watch list for the past couple of weeks now. Finally saw a decent pullback, hopped in on the 4-hour chart off the back of that candle. And we had a nice shift, but momentum kind of slowed down by now. We're just a little bit in profit, but we'll see how that trade continues. But again, the reason why I like this position is because we've got that massive V shape on the daily chart, massive sell, massive buy back up again. Typically, these V-shaped patterns do mean more upside. Price came back to retest this trend line confluence as well. So as long as we can hold this area, I'm very bullish. Even if we do dip below, I'll still be having that bullish bias. I have talked about this area here as well as a nice place for a buy. We haven't quite got there yet. So if we do spike one more time to the downside, respect this area, I'll still be looking for entries to take it back into resistance. And I do think we can go a lot higher as well. But yeah, very bullish on New Zealand CAD, hopped into a long. We'll see how that position goes. And the last position to talk about is Aussie CHF. So again, this one I was keeping my eye on this week. I did have New Zealand CHF on the bonus pair for last week's analysis. But I also said that Aussie CHF looks good too. And I chose Aussie CHF just because this one in terms of risk reward looks a little bit better. And I like the entry a little bit better for this one too. But again, it's the same idea. If this one does push up, New Zealand CHF probably will push up too. But the idea is that Aussie CHF has come from all-time lows. We're expecting a pullback. Every time this one does create all-time lows, it does tend to correct itself. As you can see, I've highlighted some of these lows here where the market does just kind of rally back up again. So I'm expecting a similar move. And on the lower time frames, we're starting to print some higher highs and higher lows, which is what I wanted to see before I do jump into any trades. Nice break and retest of the high there. We're in that descending channel. Broken out of that. I have gone to break even on this position. Price has swept the highs there, so I do not want this to be a losing position anymore. If I can get into a swing and it goes and takes out the relative highs, I don't want to be in a position where price can now go against me because I've already seen the swing. Now it's up to the market if it is going to continue or not. which is a new kind of situation in itself. I've caught the swing from the low to the high. It's just about wicked through. If you can see, they're just about wicked through. Just about wicked through there. So that's my cue to go break even. And yeah, I was going to see how this position goes. It's quite a choppy pair, so I would say there's probably a chance I do get wicked out for break even, but that's my management plan. If there's re-entries, I'll look to see if I can get involved. Anyway, back to some analysis. A lot of positions to go through there. Pretty busy week. So DXY, I'll keep this one short and quick. Still expecting more upside for the dollar. We are starting to put some higher lows in. 1, 2, possibly 3 there as well off the back of NFP. Price was looking pretty bearish, and then we flipped to the upside and closed pretty strongly bullish there. On the higher time frames, I've spoke about the major lows we've been taking out on the weekly chart. This one here, so I'm expecting price to have a bit of a move up higher, even though I'm expecting DXY to go a lot lower in the future, in the longer term. Areas which I would anticipate a pullback towards 101.5, the consolidation over here, lovely areas for us to retrace to, then potentially look to sell back down again. So for the upcoming week, I'm still looking for upside. As long as we can kind of respect this area here, this is what's keeping me bullish. If price does break through this confluence, so if you see a breakthrough 99, that would make me bearish again for the dollar. But at the moment, we're still respecting this area. I'm looking for a rally to 101.5. So that's my take on the DXY. Euro USD, pretty much the exact opposite. Again, bit of a head and shoulder pattern here. Left head, right shoulder. I was looking for one more swing before the drop, just to kind of get that really nice right shoulder formation. But price was looking pretty bearish there for Euro. Nice drop to the downside. That was on Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday we had NFP, which gave some wicks to the upside. But I'm still interested in Euro falling. Of course, if dollar's going to push up, then I'm expecting Euro to fall as well. Similar reasons, very overextended to the upside, massive wick rejection there. We've taken out major highs to our left. For me, the market's quite stretched and likely to pull back. But again, still, I do expect Euro to long-term push up higher. But I do expect, before that, a pullback. So I'm still looking at more downside for Euro. Perhaps there might be some nice shorts on the break and we tested this area. If you can see a more kind of exaggerated break of that level, some retest could look good to short it back down if you're looking at something a bit more intraday or like kind of intra-week, swing for the week. I'm more focused on the buy, so I'm just waiting for Euro to retrace, and I'm looking at these zones here for some longs. But on the lower time frames, especially if you're looking for the trade for the week, because it might take us a whole week for us to actually get to this support level. So this might not be a setup until the following week to buy Euro. So you're probably more focused on shorting it this week. But yeah, very bearish on Euro. As long as we kind of respect these lower highs here, expecting us to fall, and then some buys from 1.115 and 1.09. Okay, so over to dollar yen. So dollar yen, I think there is some nice buying opportunities for some selling opportunities later on. On the higher time frames, I still do expect to see dollar yen reverse and have a continuation. But at the moment, it does look like it's doing a pretty good job at respecting support here on the weekly chart. So I'm looking for a bit of a push higher for us to form a lower high to come back down again. So in the meantime, it looks like there could be some nice buys off this level here. We've already came back to respect that level off the back of NFP. But if we were to come back down again, I think that could invite some nice buying opportunities early on in the week. There's some nice higher lows here, potentially come back, test the trend line as well. That could be a nice added confluence for the position for some entries. And that could take us back to 147, which is this daily low here. These are the two levels I'm kind of looking for some shorts from. Again, that might take a whole week or two to actually pan out. So the buys are kind of what is more kind of more what we probably want to focus on for next week if you're looking to trade dollar yen. And then maybe towards the end of next week or the week after, we might be able to speak about some shorts from 147 and 149. Of course, depending how we get there, depending how we react with these levels. If things look good, there could be some nice shorts. But I am definitely interested in either of those levels to take some shorts. But in the meantime, I think longs is the best play off this 144 level. So that's the plan going to next week for dollar yen. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So I'm still expecting a retracement for this one. I've talked about how corrective the market is, how fatigued we look, and the fact that we're in this descending channel, which typically means a break to the upside is quite likely. It looks like the market's finding it really hard to break support here. We've had 1, 2, and a third attempt to break through, all have resulted in very nice rejections. So perhaps we could see price break to the upside from there, or maybe do get a third rally to the downside, or not really a rally, a third drop to the downside. I mentioned this on the last weekly analysis that we might see one more push to the downside for that last kind of lower low, and then from there we might correct. Either one looks either likely, just depends in terms of momentum. As we start the week, do we start picking up momentum? Well, potentially get the breakout. If we lose that momentum, support breaks, well, I'll be looking for that third higher low before we do correct to the upside. And again, same situation with the other USD pairs we've talked about. I'm still very bearish on the dollar longer term. So pairs like dollar CAD, I'm still very interested to short to try and catch that next lower high on the daily. You can see if I zoom out, we've got one high there, lovely swing, another high over there, lovely swing. So again, looking for that third lower high for again another swing to the downside. But first things first, we need that pullback. So again, pretty bullish on dollar CAD. Could be some buys off the low here or buys in the breakout. That could be a nice way to enter the market, waiting for momentum to come in and then taking a trade. So keep an eye on those opportunities. I'm more fixated on the shorts because that's what I deem to be the biggest swing, and that's where I would expect momentum to lie as well. I'm expecting a bit more of a corrective move on the way up for us to continue the trend on the higher time frame. So I'm more fixated on the shorts, but again, like I said, might take a week or two before we even get there, so take that into consideration. But that is the plan next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so on to euro pound. So not my favorite pair this week, but I think there could be a nice buy situated on the daily chart here. 0.84460, lovely swing high. We broke through that high. Now I'm looking for price to come back and retest it for another bounce. Now I'm not necessarily looking for another higher low. I know we do have some bullish structure here. Low, high, higher low, higher high, perhaps another higher low for again another higher high. The reason why I'm not so enthusiastic about calling a swing low, a new higher low for a swing to the upside, just because of the conditions of the market. If I zoom out, the only thing clear to me for euro pound is that it's a range. That's roughly the high and that's roughly the low. Everything in between is just speculation and noise. So we're trading the middle now, or closer to the middle. So this is where you don't really want to hold positions for too long because the market's going to zigzag up and down. Perhaps we do continue to the high, perhaps we start to consolidate, perhaps price comes back down for another retest. I would say all three of those potential moves are equally likely to form, really, just because of how choppy the price has been. And if you look to the left, that's kind of what prices has been doing. But it doesn't change the fact that this is still a nice level for a buy and a good chance for price to react and see an up move. It's just I would not hold that trade for too long. If I can get a nice spring to the upside, back into resistance, there's a big level here. In fact, if I just take that across, you can see there, support, support, resistance, resistance. That would definitely be the first level I look to lock in some gains. And maybe if I was very kind of bullish, I might try and swing it up there, but definitely looking to take some profits around 0.85281, or at least just remove risk anyway. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe we do see a swing all the way to the upside. That could definitely happen too. But just because of how the pair moves, you want to be prepared in case that doesn't happen, which is definitely the more likely situation. So take that into consideration. But I like how euro pound's moving, nice and corrective, really nice level. We broke out, no retest, so there's a good chance we do see a push up. So as long as things are good at that level, I do suggest some buys there for euro pound for next week. So that will be the plan. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So buys plan same as last week and the week before that, and probably the week before that as well. Still very bullish on Aussie dollar. I do think this is still getting ready for a really big move to the upside. I'm looking at this being a bottom for the market for us to start to trend higher. So the plan is very much just looking for pullbacks to buy it, and that's just the key thing. We haven't really seen any pullbacks. The market has been stuck in this consolidation for a while. It looks like it's trying to break to the upside, but I'm not really interested in following that momentum right now. I would argue that price is only just about spiked outside the range. And if anything, this is actually a good time to actually start to short Aussie dollar. if we can find ourselves to trade back inside the range, I think this is just a fake out for us to see another flush to the downside, and just a continuation of this consolidation of that range. But the plan is, we've had a nice V-shaped pattern. Now I'm looking for a correction for continuation, and these are the two levels I'm looking for that continuation to happen from. So 0.632, nice level in the market, and also this level here, 0.624, nice level for a buy. Each look good. I probably would rather the deeper pullback for a buy, but Aussie dollar might just be too bullish, so I might only get this opportunity here. But at the moment, I'm not getting either, so just need to stay very patient and just wait to see if we can get that pullback. Like I said, if we can creep back inside the range, there could be some nice shorts there to take advantage of a bit of a sell, and that spike would have done a good job at taking some stop losses there. So I think that would be a nice short off the base of that. But as I said, for dollar CAD and the other USD pairs, I'm more just focused on selling the dollar right now. But yeah, I definitely need a pullback for myself to do that. So yeah, keep an eye on some shorts if we creep back in the range for a swing back to the low of the range, of course, potentially back into that level there as well. If you're looking for buys, 0.632, 0.624 look really, really good. So that's the plan going to next week for Aussie dollar. Okay, so over to New Zealand CAD. So again, very bullish on this one. I'm currently buying this this pair. I do think we can see a swing back to the high there at 0.8326. The idea is that, again, we had a massive sell-off. Markets recovered that. We're seeing a lot of momentum giving us that V-shaped pattern. So now I'm looking for the correction of that bullish leg for the continuation of it as well. Now I've highlighted this trend line. I've highlighted this area here as well. At the moment, the market is bouncing quite well on the trend line. So that's why I hopped into my position. But if we were to come back for a double bottom, that could be a nice chance to find some entries. Or if we spike lower into that zone there, I think that also will be a really nice place for a buy, and look to try and capitalize on a swing back into the highs there. Risk to reward looks pretty good in this position as well, so I like the idea. And I would just say, in terms of the probability, we're looking very good as well. These V-shaped patterns do have a very good probability of playing out. So when I do spot them in the market, I do really want to trade them because they do have a good success rate. So yeah, that's kind of my take on New Zealand CAD. Nothing crazy, just we pull back into confluence. Now expecting this area to hold, buys to kick in, and a continuation back to highs. Targets, back to the high there I'm looking at, but again, even that high makes sense too, so that's up to you. But yeah, I would keep an eye on for that double bottom at 0.816 or the retest of this zone here at 0.814. But yeah, looking at more upside there for New Zealand CAD next week. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So I unfortunately kind of missed the setup this week. I was looking for a little bit more upside before the drop, but looks like price was happy with 2.26 there and looking pretty bearish. I'm not too annoyed because I'm also buying New Zealand CAD, so I'm basically buying NZD already, so I don't necessarily want to be selling pound NZD as well. It's going to be between the two. But I probably would have rathered pound NZD just because I think there's a bigger risk reward for this one. But beggars can't be choosers. But anyway, we're looking pretty bearish here. Again, ideally would want a push into 2.27 to kind of really give me that head and shoulder resistance there. So we've got the left over there, the head over there, and ideally the right shoulder there, but looks like it might be a little bit lower. But again, the market isn't perfect, so we could be seeing the drop from there. Again, the opportunity is still very much on. If we were to suddenly find support push up next week, then fantastic. I think that would be a great place for a short as well still. If not, it could be a situation where the market is ready to actually see some new lows here, and we do start to form some bearish structure. So of course that originally will be our high. Market forms a new low. That will be our new lower high, sorry. And then of course we expect a new lower low. So at that stage, we're looking for the pullback, perhaps a retest of the zone here or a retest of the low there. Again, we'll kind of map that out closer to when the setup is forming, but something like that could be the situation. And then we're looking for the break and retest and then continuations to the downside, because I do expect on the higher time frames that this bullish pound NZD trend that we've had for a while is coming to an end, or a temporary end. temporarily, that's poor, temporary end, and we might see a push down for a few weeks before we do continue, or maybe it's a big reversal. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, for pound NZD, I am looking for a push down. Again, if I don't get the setup up here next week, then my best chance for an entry would just be some breaking retest on these lows here. But again, we have to wait for the break of the low first for that to happen. So yeah, big guts on that. Maybe we do get the pullback, so keep an eye on that, but still very bearish in pound NZD. And these are the only kind of setups I see that look good enough for me to entertain. So that's the plan next week for pound NZD. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen, I think similar to dollar yen, there could be some nice buys for some sales later on. I'm still pretty bearish in CAD Yen. We're still putting in these lower lows and lower highs. I have said that the market has been looking pretty tired as we kind of respect support here. So we've kind of pushed away from that. But now as you come back into this structure where we had our previous swing high, as well as key support, key resistance, I think naturally this will be a nice place to short the market. There is a bit of a trend line running through the market here. Perhaps we do kind of spike into that a little bit before we do drop. But on the lower time frames, I also think there's a nice buy to be had. There's a nice level here, similar to dollar yen. Really nice rally through that zone. If the market was to pull back into that nice and correctively, I do think that could lead up to a nice buy. You've got the swing low there, next higher low, and perhaps we do see the next one, which will take us back into that resistance, where then we can start to speak about some shorts later on. So that's where the kind of bullish bias comes from, even though I'm still kind of overall short bias on CAD yen. I'm still kind of short on the yen pairs, so bullish on the yen itself until we start to break through some major structure, which if we were to rally through this zone and take out that high completely, then I would probably be bullish there on CAD yen. But for now, still looking at some more upside to come back into resistance, and then we can speak about some shorts again. And if the rejection looks good, perhaps we could see another swing back to the low. So that's the plan going to next week for CAD JPY. Okay, so over to pound USD. So I'm pretty bullish on pound, but I do expect to see a bit of a drop for this one. We're looking very fatigued on the weekly chart. You can see two very big wicks there to the upside, kind of nice tweezer tops as the market does struggle at resistance. So I'm expecting pound USD to drop for retracement purposes. I do think pound USD still has a lot more in the tank to the upside. Still have longer term targets around 1.4, even higher than that potentially. But we've had already a big swing. Market looks like it's fatiguing at the highs here. I think dollar has the same situation where it can retrace as well. So if dollar does become strong, that should help pound USD push down. And you can see just generally us fatiguing here, double top there. Looks like this ascending channel is breaking to the downside ever so slightly. So I do expect to see pound USD start to fall a little bit and retrace. And that would be great because I've talked about some longs from 1.315, longs from 1.3. These are areas which I will be looking for price to come into, hopefully nice and correctively, and then start to look for some buying opportunities to step into the market and take it back to highs again. So that's really the plan this week. Euro looks a little bit better to short. I feel like there probably will be a cleaner setup there to the downside. There could be some nice shorts to take pound USD lower, but I'll probably have to drop really intraday to try and find those opportunities. Pound just looks quite corrective to me. But if we can stay like that on the way down, that should be good for the buyers because it could provide some nice entries. But yeah, that's the plan there for pound. Still very bullish, but I do expect to see some downside next week. Okay, so over to pound CAD. So bearish on this one as well. Looks like we have broken to the downside. I was looking for one more spike to the upside for pound CAD before the short, but unfortunately did not get that. The market's looking pretty bearish right now. Nice close on the week there, looking pretty bearish. I do think we are going to see a bit of a drop now for pound CAD. Market's been pretty stretched. I've talked about shorts on this one for a while. And I do think it's time for us to see that swing. So dropping to the 4-hour chart, the next best opportunity I would say for pound CAD would be if the market can start to form some lower lows and lower highs again, which looks like it's doing. And we can look for some retest somewhere. I like the retest of this low. It lines up pretty well with the low there on the left. So if we can get a retest, that would be a fairly smart place for a stop loss above. And the next target would be the swing low. I do think we can go a lot further than that. But again, for next week's bias, let's just focus on 1.8 for now. Big psychological level. So I do think there will be a bit of an attraction for price to get there as well. So yeah, pretty bearish on pound CAD. We've broken through this bullish structure, so not going to think too much about that now. Now I'm more focused about this momentum. If we can see it continue, looking for retest off the back of this low at 1.835, then targets down at 1.8, and that would be the plan next week for pound CAD. Okay, so over to pound yen. So still very bearish on this one, looking for a push down. We've come back into a lovely area of supply, which I was talking about last week, 192, 193 area. Again, we've got some lovely bearish structure here for pound yen, 1, 2, and 3. Now, this is our last bearish swing, so as long as price does not take out this high, I remain bearish on pound yen, which doesn't mean necessarily have to find a short opportunity. It just means I'm not looking to buy it. If price was to push to the upside and break the high, that would invalidate the bearish bias, and I'll be bullish from there, looking for a higher low for continuation. So that's the only way I'd have a swing, a bullish swing bias for pound yen. At the moment, we're coming back into supply. This is where that momentum came from. We're in an area where there's a good chance for a low high to form as well, so I'm only looking to short. And I like the way price got there too. Nice and corrective. Not too corrective, but not too impulsive. Nice kind of flush to the upside there. I would say if we can get a nice double top here, price comes back into that resistance again, respects it, maybe wicks through the high. I think that'll be a really nice place for an entry. And again, the beauty of it is if the trade does play out, if you do see that swing, it's a long way to the downside there for pound yen. So you're looking at some very decent risk reward opportunities here if we were to see that swing. And I still think there's room lower. Still looking at 180 for that wick to be taken out. So yeah, I really like pound yen. I'm more focused with euro yen myself at the moment. Very similar kind of opportunities, but I think pound yen looks pretty good as well. So bearish bias, as long as we can hold this zone, looking for sells. I like the double top there, and expectations are pushed back to 184.9. Okay, so over to gold. So I believe gold's in an interesting situation right now because we are starting to form some lower highs on the lower time frames. So it looks like market structure is shifting, but on the higher time frames, and by higher time frames I mean more so the daily chart, everything is still bullish. No sign of major structure shift or any sign of a big break of structure or even aggressive momentum. Everything still looks really bullish to me. So I still like the buys from a long-term play, but on the lower time frames I think shorts do look equally as good. So if price was to push back into this area of supply, start to reject it again, there's a bit of a trend line running through the market. I do think shorts around 3290, 3300 look good to take the market back down again. Equally, I like the opportunity for some buys in this range here, in this level. If we're to push down, form a double bottom there, I think that would be a great place for a buy. Even the high, which is just below us, which is the same level I mentioned last week, I think this is also a nice place for a buy as well. In terms of the bigger move for gold, that's kind of where I'm in an awkward place. I still am bullish because the bigger move, I look at the higher time frames to predict that. The higher time frames do look bullish to me, so I would still be a buyer of gold, but I would be cautious of this. If price can rally through that, then yeah, I'll be pretty confident that we could see more upside. If we do start to struggle here, then we could see another bearish swing, and we'll see where we go from there. But if you have a bearish bias, keep an eye on that area. If you're bullish, these zones still look really nice to long from. And potentially you could see a swing back to the highs there, which again provides big risk reward opportunities for the long. So trading stop loss could be a nice way to manage that. But yeah, that's the kind of the plan I've got for next week for gold. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, I'm still very bullish on this one, but I'm not a big fan of the breakout we just had past that consolidation. Price was ranging for a while. It did close pretty nicely to the upside, but overall very, very flat on the breakout. It could be a retest there for us to continue higher, but I'll probably keep that intraday, not necessarily looking for a big swing. I do still think Bitcoin's got a good chance of making it back to the all-time highs here. Really nice breakout of this descending channel and really healthy move. If price can retrace and respect this high here, I do believe that would be a really nice place to position yourself along to capitalize on Bitcoin pushing back to the all-time highs. So yeah, I'm still very bullish on Bitcoin. Just the breakout was just not that great there. So I still like the buys. I still think it's a suitable level to buy from. But would I try and push to all-time highs? Probably not, but then at the same time, you don't know if Bitcoin, you could just see momentum pick up and it could be a big move. So I think just trading stop losses on Bitcoin are a good move to have, a good way to manage trades, not necessarily just having a target back to a high, because you just don't know if Bitcoin, it might hit the high and come back down, or it might push to 110K and you could be onto a really, really big winner with a really tight stop loss as well. So yeah, I'm just not too sure about Bitcoin right now because it is running out momentum. I still do think the market is bullish and would like to see higher prices, but a larger pullback would definitely be the more appealing opportunity here for Bitcoin for a swing. But definitely still, I like the buys there. It's just I would be a bit cautious about how far we go and make sure you manage that trade along the way. But yeah, pullback to 88K, same as we spoke last week. Buys look really good, a lot of momentum. And I do think there's still a good chance we get back to the high. So that's the plan next week for Bitcoin. Okay, so last but not least, we've got Euro Aussie, which is our bonus pair for this week. So I like the shorts for this one. I do think there's a lot of room to the downside. I'm looking at the higher time frames especially. We've had a massive move to the upside, but I do think price is likely to come back down and correct itself. On the monthly time frame, you can see last month's candle left behind a pretty big wick to the upside as we kind of spike back into this area from COVID. So I do think the market is likely to retrace now. We've got a lovely level of resistance above us there. I do think we're likely to come back and retrace and retest that level. Perhaps we do continue to the upside from that area. I'm not necessarily saying it's a reversal, but that was a big wick from April. It's a big sign that says, okay, momentum has really failed at the highs there. And rightly so, if we look to our left, last time we had a big spike, we came crashing back down. So I do think there is a lot of room for us to retrace into. Now, looking at the lower time frames, daily chart breaks to the downside, showing a lot of momentum. So again, dropping to the 4-hour chart, you can see that in better detail. You can see the market is forming some lower highs here on our way down and is left behind a really nice level of support, which held price for a while. Now we've broken through. If we pull back, retest that, perhaps we can catch the next lower high for a short to the downside. Now, like I said, I do think price can get back to that level to retest that 1.7 on the higher time frames, but you don't have to hold the trade for that far. There is a big high here on the left here. I think that looks good for a target. You can call it a day there. Depending on your entries, that could still be a very, very nice risk reward opportunity and a swing there. You don't have to look for the big move, but that's just an idea if you guys want to try to push for a bigger move there. So yeah, Euro Aussie, I really like this one. Nice bearish structure. Now that we cracked through support, the bearish bias is kind of really there for me now. As long as we don't kind of rally back above and take out this high here. So as long as we don't do something like that, I'm pretty bearish now on Euro Aussie. Expect price to keep falling there. So if you can pull back, I think that'll be a really nice target to have. And there might be some bit more downside there as well, which you can look into. So yeah, that's really my bias there for Euro Aussie. Keep an eye on that pair. I do like that one. It will be my watch list for next week, so I will be keeping a close eye on it. But yeah, just waiting for that pullback to happen. But guys, we have come up to the end of the analysis. I was about to say end of the stream there. End of the analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel. It does really help out, helps promote the content. So if you can, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all of that stuff does really help. And of course, drop a comment down below what pairs you're looking to trade next week. I'm interested to find out. Also, if you're interested, check out the Discord link to Elevating Traders. Join the community, chat with other traders, share ideas. I'm there as well. So if you're interested, it's free to join. Check it out. Link in the description. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, and I'll catch you all next week.